Commanders have made their move. They acquire Marshon Lattimore earlier today, and I thought we'd talk to our guest now later in the week, perhaps, as he's going to be calling the game Sunday for CBS. But I was like, who could we talk to about a defensive back move? How about Charles Davis, NFL Network, and of course CBS? He'll be with Ian Eagle and Evan Washburn on the call this week. And Charles, always great to talk to you, especially when we got breaking news to talk about, my friend.
Well, it's funny, Craig. This is not often I get called on breaking news. Usually the news breaks, everything happens, and then someone tells me about it later. So this is really kind of cool to be on the front end of something like this. But it is funny because earlier today I was asked about Washington and, what kind of move to strengthen this team. And I said corner would be the obvious first place for me. I don't think it's an original thought, but if they could get a corner and head into the last part of their schedule with another corner, I think that'd be a big help for their team.
No doubt about it. And Adam Peters, who doesn't really say a whole lot to anybody, it had certainly come out that they were in the market for one, and they get arguably one of the best ones on the market in Marshon Lattimore. The Saints obviously looking to get out of a bit of a cap situation. From the Washington side of it, like, how big is it? And this is, I think, the big thing that I want to try to understand with you, Charles, is that drop-off for Benjamin St-Juste from number 1 down to number 2 corner. By putting him now on number 2s and letting Lattimore be a true number 1 that he is, and then the effect down even farther, Mikey Sanders still getting to go back into the slot. What does this do for Washington's defense?
It gets everyone in the right spot, in my humble opinion. It's just one person from the outside. But Benjamin St-Juste has given them everything he's got, and it's made some plays for them. He also is probably ranking in there pretty well on defensive pass interference calls. He's not a sprinter, and you're going to end up getting those sprinters out there if you're dealing with wide receiver 1. Not saying wide receiver 2 all of a sudden goes down to a bunch of slugs, but you know what I'm talking about. I think him going to 2 takes some pressure off. Every player wants to be 1. Let's be honest about it, Craig. You know that, right?
Of course.
I want to be CB1. I want to be WR1. I want to be RB1. But deep down inside, they also know who they are. And I don't think this hurts him one bit. CB2 on a contending team in the NFL is a really good spot, considering we throw the ball 60+% of the time. So you're going to get plenty of action. You got a legit 1 in Lattimore now. St-Juste, who's playing well for them overall, goes to 2. And Sanders still was drafted really to be a nickel. That's who he is. That's what he plays. That's why we all fell in love with him at Michigan. He gets back to his natural spot. To me, it just strengthens the team overall and makes things easier for each player because they're in their natural place.
Charles Davis, CBS, with us. He'll be on the call this weekend, Commanders and Steelers, and joining us in response to the breaking news from earlier today that the Commanders have acquired Marshon Lattimore. Charles, what do you make of Lattimore, the player, from your years now of watching him in New Orleans?
Always liked him a bunch. When I was working at a different network, I ended up seeing the Saints a lot more. Okay, and during that time, that's when the Saints were perennial playoff teams, right? They were in the position where bad calls might have kept them from another Super Bowl appearance, things of that nature. But they were playing big games, and the first playoff game I did was Saints-Eagles in New Orleans, and he had a big hand in that ball game. Alshon Jeffrey was riding high for Philadelphia. That was the second year of Nick Folk replacing Carson Wentz, and down the stretch, Lattimore had to make plays because the ball was coming his way with Jeffrey, but he was like that throughout the entire game. He is a true cornerback 1. He embraces it. He will be physical when he needs and wants to be. He can run with everyone. He just has a knack for playing the position, but he has a bigger knack for understanding what it takes to play the position down in and down out. In other words, he gets beat on a route or 2, it's not going to be the end of the world for him. You know what I'm saying? He's going to come back and make the play that works. And you and I both know that you're not going on the volume of catches and things of that nature, although it's fun when you say, hey, blank this guy or only caught 1 ball or whatever. Will you make the play when you absolutely have to have it? And he's had a knack for doing that when things were good in New Orleans.
The thing that when I think of a current Dan Quinn, Adam Peters player, the number one trait is competitiveness. And when I think of Marshon Lattimore, that's the number one thing I think about, from the fights to Mike Evans on down to the cleaner play, if you will. My question would be mid-season without a training camp. Like he's been a pro for a long time, a really high level pro for a long time. I also think that like in terms of the character, I'm guessing Adam Peters made a call to Terry McLaurin and or Noah Brown, who played with him at Ohio State.
Sure.
Like they know who he is, but we've seen players have trouble at all positions adapting to new schemes, especially midseason. It's one of the reasons why trades are not as popular in the NFL as they are in other sports. What do you make of how Lattimore fits with what you've seen Washington do, considering you had them a couple weeks ago and are obviously studying them again this week?
Well, you bring up such good points because that's the reason, football's hard to just plug in, although it's very strange, right? Week in and week out, we see guys come in with limited practice, will start and play, and you're like, how are they doing that, right? So you're getting people who, they're going to talk you through things, right? They're going to adapt to what you did before. Hey, you call that brown, we call it blue, that sort of a deal, and get them going. But as a corner, probably less to worry about adapting than in most places. Playing man, playing zone. Cover 2 is cover 2. Cover 3 is cover 3. Cover 4 is cover 4. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Almost universally across the board. Now, do you have your calls where you're going to mix and match? When you're doing cover 6, cover 8, where it's quarters, half, or half, quarters, yes, you'll have some of those, right? You'll have that, hey, we'll play 2 catch here. But for the most part, the technique's the technique. The biggest thing is just adapting to the locker room, to the people, the meeting times, change of city. Where am I going to live now? Is my family taken care of behind me? Those are the things that people don't think about. We just think about getting them on the field. They have a lot more going through their head than just that. But coming to play corner, we're playing man, Marshon. Got it.
Yeah, no, that part's easy when it's one-on-one. I think the area that Washington has got this year a couple times that they're still trying to iron out, which has been way better the last 6 weeks, in fairness to them, is some of the communications in man where they have to pass stuff off. How hard is it to learn your teammates? And I mean, I know it's something that Joe Witt Jr. coaches and preaches about communication given, received, acknowledged. He's got like 7 steps to make sure that everyone's on the same page. So I'm sure that will be preached this week. But as someone who's played with different guys in a back end of a secondary in your career, how hard is it to adapt and learn that communication on the fly in just a couple days practice?
Yeah, it's not easy. It's something that just simply is going to take time. And you hope that the issues are minimal as you learn and adapt. Now, I'm going to give you something that's going to there's something in my head that I think the time will be cut down, and you know why? Because he's being traded to a different city, and he's coming to a place, and he's not going to go looking for a house, right? He's not going to go and try and, really adapt into any place else. He's going to go find a place to live that's going to be close to the facility, and he's going to be 24/7 ball.
Yep.
It's going to cut time down. His friends are going to be his teammates. Now, he may have family in D.C. area. I don't know this. But for the most part, you're usually going and it's you. So what are you going to do all day? And especially he's going to look up and say, I'm coming from a 2-7 team to a 7-2 team. He knows what winning is like. He knows what it feels like. He knows how good it is. He has a chance to do it again. It changes your whole outlook and your whole deal. So I think the learning curve will be cut down because he'll be totally immersed in it. It's like learning to speak a foreign language. You'll learn it a lot quicker if you go live in that country for a month.
Yes, indeed. Charles Davis with us for another minute here on the Hoffman Show. Nice enough to spend some time on a busy day, not only for him, but around the NFL. We got all these different deals happening, including Marshon Lattimore to DC. But Charles, more generally speaking, as you've obviously you had this team a couple of weeks ago, you're starting to prepare for them again. What has impressed you the most, or maybe 1 or 2 bullet points about the Commanders going 7-2, the way they've turned the franchise around, and all the things that are seemingly heading the right direction here in DC?
The maturity level of this whole organization. Yeah, I said it. The whole organization.
Yeah.
Because you've covered it for forever there. Never can you really put those words into the organization. Maturity, professionalism, doing things the right way. I think a lot of that started to change in recent years. I think people have tried it, but now I think it's really starting to take root. Adam Peters is the GM, your brand new owner, obviously. Now empowering Peters as the GM. Dan Quinn's second go around as a head coach. He hasn't changed who he is. He's still DQ. The messages are very similar that I see in Washington that I saw in Atlanta. But I think he knows how to deliver them in maybe a little bit different manner to where they might be more long-lasting. That makes any sense?
Yeah, no,
because
it does.
sometimes your slogans and things, you know what I'm saying, right? Sometimes they become bumper stickers.
Mm-hmm.
Those two, this is what we're doing. Well, I think this stuff is rooting in with his team. I see it in the speech of the players. Saw Jaden Daniels interview the other day, and he said it starts with the brotherhood. I was like, yep, he plays for DQ.
Yeah.
But it's not cheesy for him. In fact, it's something they take pride in, and that's what you're seeing with this team. So I'm seeing that maturity coupled with a youthful enthusiasm. And when I say youthful, I don't care if he's a 10-year vet or a rookie. They're all playing that and exuding that. They like getting to work. They like being around each other. They like playing the game. And I thought the win in New York against the Giants sent a nice message to the rest of the league about how this team approaches things. A few years ago, this team winning the Hail Mary and going on the road the next week, they would have gotten beat. Make no mistake about it. They would have gotten beat. They wouldn't have been able to handle it. But he has a plan. He has a system. He has a way of doing things, never deviated. And you know it by now, Craig, right? They came right in for Tell the Truth Monday.
Every single
right?
Monday.
Every single Monday. It's not going to waver. It's not going to change. And yes, we're going to tell the truth. Meaning, did you or did you not make the play? Why did you not? Let's be honest about it. Let's not kind of tiptoe around it. We're not going to let things slide. We're not going to do that. And by the time you ramp up, when's competition? Is that Wednesday?
Competition Wednesday. Yep.
Competition Wednesday. You're going to get after it. And know what it reminds me of a little bit, although it's not quite as dramatic because you can't do it that way in the NFL. It's almost like we were back in high school. Did you have a high school wrestling team?
I was not on it, but yeah, we had it.
But you had it. You probably heard from your buddies, hey, we're wrestling off for the slot at 55 for this weekend.
Yep.
Right? Every week you had to prove yourself. You had to earn your spot. You didn't just get to get it and keep it for the year. Well, it's not quite as dramatic in the NFL. It doesn't work that way. But if you're teetering and someone else is coming along, it can happen. And DQ is going to keep you on your toes that way. And that team handled that Hail Mary with maturity. And yeah, it was a little more workmanlike against the Giants. Every weekend's not going to be fireworks. But they found a way to grit it out, grind it out, and make sure a team that was inferior to them did not trip them up. To me, that's very impressive.
No doubt about it. And all you have to do is look around the league, and every single week, especially division games. I mean, the amount of bad losses I saw when I was on the beat, I just hated going to New York because I just knew like this Giants team's not any good that Washington's about to play. Not that Washington was great in a lot of those years, but you just knew that was a house of horrors. And they went in there, they did their thing, they came home, they got the dub, and then they're preparing for Pittsburgh, and that's where Charles, you'll probably hear him next Sunday on your television. Commanders Steelers 1:00 on CBS. Charles, always a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much for your time and perspective, and I'll see you Sunday in the booth.
I'm looking forward to seeing you. Thanks for having me on. You know, this is exciting times. Not when you're dealing with a player like Lattimore in New Orleans. It's not exciting. That means you know things aren't going well, and here's the rebuild. But when you're in the hunt and you're trading for players of that caliber, you're telling your fan base, we believe in this team and we believe we can do big things. And I think that's pretty cool.
No doubt about it. Thanks, Charles.
Be good.
Hey, this is DA, and you're listening to The Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.